The trapped alien fleet floated helplessly near the dying star. Ships twitched, alarms screamed, and crews shouted orders that led nowhere. The energy trap pulsed rhythmically, like the heartbeat of some enormous, invisible creature. Every ship's shield flickered and faded. Nothing worked, no weapon fired, no system responded. Panic filled the alien ranks. Yet through the chaos, one small human ship moved calmly. Captain Rian's vessel weaved between the massive alien warships with ease. His eyes scanned the trapped fleet, analyzing every detail. He was not just a pilot, he was a strategist. Every movement he made was calculated, precise, and dangerous, exactly the way he needed it to be. "Commander Zorak, the human is approaching again," an alien officer cried out, voice shaking. "We can't stop it. Its ship, it moves like it knows our every weakness." Zorak's claws slammed on his console. "Impossible. This is a human. How can one human interfere with an entire fleet? Prepare weapons. Fire at it now." But no weapons worked. Every shot fizzled in mid-space, blocked by the mysterious energy trap. The aliens screamed and cursed, but there was nothing they could do. Rian's ship moved closer to a disabled cruiser. His shields were gone, engines offline. He activated a small pulse from his human-engineered core. It spread through the cruiser's systems like a gentle wave. Slowly, the alien crew inside felt their panic subside as their ship began to respond again. Lights flickered, engines hummed, and the cruiser floated free. The alien captain of the cruiser stared at the human ship in disbelief. "What? How is this possible?" he whispered. He turned to his crew. "Do not attack it. Do not fire. This human, it is saving us." Rian's ship floated between two massive destroyers, releasing small pulses that freed them as well. His strategy was not to fight but to rescue. Every ship he freed increased the chaos among the remaining aliens, who were too proud to accept help from a human. Yet some began to see reason. A few smaller ships turned toward Rian instead of fighting him. They had no choice, the energy trap had crippled their weapons. They could only follow. Inside the flagship, Zorak's anger grew. His massive ship shook as he barked orders. "This human thinks it can control my fleet. We will not allow it. Divert all power to weapons. Target its ship. Destroy it." Rian moved deliberately, studying the flagship. He noted its weak points, the places where the trap affected it most. His sensors showed that the energy field pulsing around the fleet was unstable, dangerous, and growing stronger. One wrong move could destroy everyone. But Rian had to act. Hesitation could cost lives. He activated a new system in his ship, a pulse strong enough to interfere with the energy trap temporarily, creating a path for a few of the largest alien vessels. They surged forward, freed from the trap's grip. The crews cheered cautiously, unsure whether to celebrate or attack the human who had saved them. The moment passed. Zorak's flagship loomed ahead, massive, angry, and powerful. Its weapons glowed, ready to fire despite the trap. Rian's ship moved carefully around it, releasing pulses that disrupted the energy field near the flagship's engines. It shuddered, slowed, and nearly stalled. Zorak's face turned pale, a rare sight for a commander who had conquered hundreds of systems. "No, this is impossible. One human, and my fleet." His voice trailed into disbelief. Rian knew he had limited time. The energy trap was growing more dangerous by the second. If he delayed, the dying star's unstable radiation could destroy everything. He had to make a choice: free more ships, risk everything for the flagship, or retreat and save only part of the fleet. He chose the risk. Rian activated the strongest pulse he could generate. The wave of energy struck the flagship directly. Its engines screamed, shields flickered, and weapons misfired. The ship trembled, almost tipping over in the void of space. Alien crews screamed, but Rian remained calm, guiding the pulse carefully. Slowly, the flagship's systems began to stabilize. The energy trap lost its grip, the massive vessel floating free. Zorak's mouth opened in shock. He had never seen such power from a human. His pride, his arrogance, even his centuries of experience, could not prepare him for this. But not all aliens were pleased. Some saw this human as a threat. They fired at Rian despite the chaos, hoping to destroy the small ship. Missiles, lasers, and energy blasts streaked through space, but Rian's ship moved with impossible precision, dodging every attack. He wasn't just lucky, he predicted every move, anticipating the aliens' thoughts and reactions. Meanwhile, smaller ships followed his lead, creating a corridor of free passage. Alien crews whispered among themselves, fear turning into awe. One alien captain muttered, "This human, it is not just clever. It is dangerous." And we are lucky it chose to save us, not destroy us. Rian did not have time to celebrate. The energy trap pulsed stronger now, its patterns unpredictable. It was a force of nature, indifferent to human or alien alike. He had to act fast. Using the last of his energy reserves, he sent pulses that stabilized several remaining ships, freeing them from the trap's deadly grip. Zorak's flagship was now facing him directly. The massive commander stared at the small ship, disbelief etched across his face. "So, it has come to me," he growled. "It dares to challenge the flagship?" Rian's eyes narrowed. He did not answer. Words were useless here. Only action mattered. He prepared one final pulse, aimed not to destroy but to protect. The energy wave surged toward the flagship, and for a moment, silence fell across the fleet. Then chaos erupted. The pulse struck, the flagship systems faltered, and for the first time the massive alien vessel trembled in fear. Its engines sputtered. Weapons misfired. Crews shouted in panic. And through it all, Rian remained calm, his focus absolute. In that moment, the aliens realized a terrifying truth: humans were not weak. One small human ship had outmaneuvered hundreds of massive warships, freed trapped vessels, and challenged their greatest commander. The very idea seemed impossible, yet it was happening. Rian's pulse subsided. The fleet was partially free, the energy trap weakened. Alien crews floated in space, stunned, confused, and afraid. They had no idea who or what this human really was. But one thought ran through every mind: the balance of power had shifted, and humans were no longer to be underestimated. Rian hovered near the edge of the fleet, observing, calculating, ready for the next move. He knew the challenge was far from over. The dying star's energy was unstable, and Commander Zorak would not give up easily. But for now, humans had the advantage. And one small human ship had begun a war no one expected. A war that would test courage, intelligence, and the limits of both human and alien potential. The stars stretched endlessly, indifferent to the conflict. Yet in their cold light, one truth shone brighter than ever: a human could change the fate of an entire alien fleet. The alien fleet floated in uneasy silence. Some ships were freed from the deadly energy trap, while others still drifted helplessly. Commander Zorak's massive flagship loomed over the chaos, its weapons glowing, engines trembling. The aliens were no longer united. Fear and confusion had taken over. Captain Rian hovered at a safe distance, studying the fleet carefully. His small ship looked fragile against the massive alien vessels, but he knew that intelligence, strategy, and patience were more powerful than size. One mistake now could destroy everything, yet hesitation could be worse. "Prepare the weapons," Zorak roared, his voice echoing through the flagship's hull. "Destroy that human immediately." The alien crews scrambled, firing energy beams, missiles, and plasma bursts. They aimed directly at Rian's ship. But their attacks were futile. Rian's ship moved with precision beyond anything they had expected. Every maneuver was calculated. Every attack was avoided. The human's instincts seemed almost preternatural. Inside the cockpit, Rian's eyes scanned the battlefield. He studied every alien ship, noting weapon patterns, shield weaknesses, and crew reactions. He did not move in haste. Instead, he let the aliens reveal their strategy. Panic made them predictable. Pride made them reckless. And Rian used every advantage. "Impossible," one alien muttered to another. "It knows what we are going to do before we do it." Rian released small, controlled pulses of energy that disrupted the remaining trap around smaller ships. One by one they began to float free. Some of the rescued alien crews were grateful, though others watched him suspiciously. Many were still too proud to admit that a human had saved them. Meanwhile, Zorak's flagship advanced. Its weapons glowed brighter, its engines roaring. The massive vessel was a force of nature, and even Rian knew he could not directly destroy it. But he did not need to. His strategy was simple: weaken, confuse, and outthink. Rian's ship darted closer to the flagship, releasing subtle pulses that interfered with its targeting systems. Weapons misfired. Shields flickered. Crew members shouted in panic. Zorak's face turned pale as he struggled to maintain control. You cannot outsmart me," Zorak growled. "I am the commander of hundreds of ships. One human cannot challenge me." Rian did not answer. He did not need to. His actions spoke louder than words. He moved in patterns that seemed random to the aliens but were calculated to create openings. He freed trapped ships, blocked weapons, and disrupted communication systems. Every move made Zorak angrier and more reckless. The human small ship was suddenly between the flagship and a cluster of disabled cruisers. Rian released a pulse that temporarily stabilized them, allowing them to drift safely away from the flagship. Alien crews stared in disbelief. A human, tiny, fragile, seemingly powerless, was controlling the battlefield. Zorak bellowed orders, but his commands were scattered. Crews hesitated, unsure whether to obey or retreat. Pride and fear clashed inside the alien ranks, creating chaos. Every mistake they made gave Rian an advantage. Rian took a deep breath. He knew the energy trap was still active and growing unstable. If it exploded, the fleet would be destroyed. He had to act quickly, but he also had to make the aliens think they were still in control. The key was manipulation. He moved closer to the flagship again, dodging bursts of energy and missiles. Then, using a pulse tuned to the flagship systems, he caused its weapons to misfire, targeting each other instead of him. Explosions rocked the flagship, alarms screamed, and panic spread through the decks. Zorak's eyes widened in horror. What is this human doing?" he yelled. "Stop it. Stop it now." But no one could stop Rian. He was everywhere at once, yet nowhere predictable. He moved like a shadow, striking without touching, freeing without harming. Every action increased the tension, the suspense, and the fear among the aliens. One small alien ship, observing the chaos, finally whispered to its crew, "We are witnessing something impossible. One human has outsmarted hundreds of ships. And yet, it does not attack. It saves us." Rian's mind raced. He needed to end the confrontation soon. Zorak's flagship was too powerful for a direct fight. But he had learned something. The commander's mind was predictable, driven by anger and pride. If he could manipulate Zorak, he could gain the upper hand without destroying the massive vessel. He released another pulse, subtly interfering with the flagship's navigation systems. The massive ship veered slightly off course, engines straining. Zorak screamed at his crew, but the damage was done. Rian had shown that he could influence even the largest vessel from a distance. Then he acted. He sent a targeted energy burst to the flagship's communications array. Zorak's orders scrambled, voices overlapped, and crews became confused. Panic reached every deck. The human's plan worked perfectly. By controlling fear and uncertainty, he had taken the battlefield without firing a single destructive shot. The aliens stared in disbelief. How could one human think so clearly, act so swiftly, and manipulate the chaos of hundreds of ships? None of their training, technology, or experience prepared them for this. Rian hovered, observing Zorak. The massive commander's pride had turned into fear, and his fear was now a weapon for the human. He moved his ship closer, careful to avoid direct engagement, and sent another small pulse to stabilize the trapped vessels. They began drifting free, forming a corridor of escape. Zorak's voice shook with rage and disbelief. "No, this cannot be. One human, controlling everything." Rian knew it was true. He had changed the rules of engagement. The aliens had underestimated humans, and that mistake had cost them control. He did not gloat. He did not celebrate. He acted with purpose, patience, and intelligence. This was the human advantage. Suddenly, a massive pulse from the energy trap surged unpredictably, rocking the fleet. Ships shook violently. Some alarms failed, systems glitched, and chaos spread. Rian's ship trembled but remained intact. He had anticipated this. Using a quick counterpulse, he stabilized the ships temporarily, buying time for the remaining trapped vessels to follow him. The battlefield was tense. Some aliens now looked at him with fear and respect. Others were too proud to admit they needed help. Zorak's flagship remained intact, but the massive commander's confidence was shaken. He had never faced an opponent like this, clever, fearless, and utterly unpredictable. Rian's eyes scanned the fleet. His plan had worked. He had turned the tide, freed many ships, and outsmarted the largest vessel. Yet he knew the war was far from over. Zorak would not give up. He would strike back, stronger and more desperate than before. For now, humans had proven something important. Intelligence, courage, and strategy could outmatch size, power, and arrogance. One human had changed the battlefield completely. And the galaxy would soon learn a lesson it had forgotten. Never underestimate humanity. Rian's ship hovered in the void, engines humming softly. He prepared for the next move, knowing that Commander Zorak would act, and the next phase of this unexpected war was about to begin. The aliens had been outplayed, their minds confused, their pride wounded. But they were dangerous, and Rian knew that the real test was yet to come. The stars seemed calm, indifferent, yet the battlefield in space was chaotic. Alien ships floated in disarray, some freed from the energy trap, others still struggling. Explosions and alarms echoed across the fleet, while Commander Zorak's massive flagship roared through the void, seeking to regain control. Panic, confusion, and fear were everywhere, but in the midst of the chaos, one small human ship moved calmly, Captain Rian's vessel. Rian's eyes scanned the fleet. He had already freed many ships, disrupted Zorak's flagship, and created openings for smaller vessels. But the war was far from over. He knew that the largest ships and Zorak himself were still a threat. Every second mattered. He needed a plan, and he needed allies. Unknown to most of the fleet, not all aliens shared Zorak's pride. A few captains watching Rian's actions began to question their commander. Their ships were powerful, but the energy trap had crippled them. They were trapped, vulnerable, and terrified. Some whispered among themselves, admiring the human's courage and skill. One of these ships, a sleek, silver cruiser, drifted close to Rian's small vessel. Its alien captain, a female named Vela, transmitted a private message. "You, human. You saved my ship. I will help you. But we must be careful. Zorak watches." Rian's eyes narrowed as he read the message. Unexpected allies. It was a risk, but it was also an opportunity. With their help, he could stabilize more ships, outmaneuver Zorak, and perhaps end the crisis without massive destruction. He transmitted back a simple message. "Follow my lead. We free as many as we can. Timing is everything." Vela's ship moved to join Rian, careful not to draw attention. A few other captains noticed and made similar decisions. Their ships began forming a silent alliance with the human, though the majority of the fleet remained under Zorak's control. Inside the flagship, Zorak's patience was thinning. "Where are my ships?" he growled. "Why are they drifting? Why is this human still alive? Destroy it." His orders were met with hesitation. Some crews hesitated, uncertain whether to fire. Others were confused by the subtle maneuvers of their allies. Chaos was spreading. The human had done more than free ships. He had sown distrust and doubt in Zorak's ranks. Rian hovered near a group of disabled vessels. With careful pulses from his ship, he stabilized their systems, allowing them to drift free. Vela and the other allied ships followed, creating a corridor of escape. Slowly, more alien crews began to trust the human, realizing that he was their only hope of survival. But Zorak was not idle. His flagship moved with immense speed, engines glowing with power. Weapons charged, targeting the human and his new allies. Rian's sensors detected the movement. He knew he could not engage directly. His small ship could not survive a head-on confrontation with the massive flagship. Instead, Rian used strategy. He released pulses that disrupted the flagship's targeting systems and shield alignment. Zorak's weapons misfired. Energy beams struck empty space or even his own fleet. The human had turned the flagship's power against itself. Panic spread among the remaining loyal ships. They had always believed in Zorak's leadership, but now doubt crept in. Could this tiny human really outthink a seasoned commander? The question spread like wildfire through the ranks. Rian's eyes scanned the field. He knew that more ships could be freed, but the energy trap was unstable. Its pulsing energy grew stronger, unpredictable, and dangerous. If it exploded, the fleet would be destroyed. Timing was critical. Vela's ship moved closer, transmitting advice. "Human, the trap is too strong near the dying star. Move the remaining ships here. We can stabilize them temporarily." Rian nodded, adjusting his course. Together, the human and his small group of alien allies began rescuing the remaining ships. Each pulse, each maneuver, freed vessels from the trap's deadly grip. Some aliens cheered quietly, others stared in disbelief. They had never seen anything like this. A human saving hundreds of ships, commanding respect without authority, inspiring hope without fear. Zorak's rage grew. He barked orders that went unheeded, his massive flagship veering dangerously close to several of his own vessels. The human had created confusion, divided his fleet, and shifted the balance. Zorak's pride became his weakness. Rian's strategy was clear. Free as many ships as possible, weaken Zorak's control, and avoid direct confrontation until he had the advantage. His pulses stabilized the largest remaining ships, while Vela and the other allies guided them into safe zones. The remaining loyalists fired again, but Rian's ship moved like a shadow, dodging and weaving. Every pulse disrupted weapons, shields, and engines. The massive flagship roared in frustration. Zorak's anger was palpable, but so was his fear. He had never encountered an enemy like this, clever, patient, fearless. One by one, the trapped ships floated free. The once powerful fleet was now scattered, some still loyal to Zorak, others following the human and his unexpected allies. The balance of power had shifted in moments. The battlefield was no longer one of sheer force but of intelligence, courage, and strategy. Rian hovered near the dying star. Its energy pulsed unpredictably, threatening to destroy everything. He knew the final challenge was coming. The trap could collapse at any moment. The human and his allies had bought time, but the danger was far from over. Vela transmitted a warning, "Human, Zorak will strike soon. He cannot let his pride be broken. We must act quickly, or the remaining ships will be destroyed." Rian's eyes narrowed. He had anticipated this. The next move would determine the fate of the fleet and the balance of power in the sector. The human advantage had grown, but the war was far from over. One final push could free all the ships, or destroy everything if he failed. The stars stretched endlessly, indifferent to the chaos below. Explosions, alarms, and energy pulses illuminated the void. And in the midst of it all, a small human ship moved with purpose, leading a group of unexpected allies, proving that courage, intelligence, and strategy could defy size, power, and fear. The aliens began to whisper among themselves. "This human, it is not just clever. It is something we have never seen. And yet, it does not attack. It saves us." Rian's eyes scanned the battlefield one last time before the final phase. Zorak's flagship loomed, massive and furious, but the human had the initiative. The remaining ships were free to follow him, if he could guide them through the unstable energy field near the dying star. With careful precision, Rian released one last sequence of pulses, stabilizing the free ships while further destabilizing Zorak's command. The massive flagship trembled, engines straining. The remaining loyalist ships hesitated, unsure whether to obey their commander or follow the human. For the first time, Zorak realized that the battlefield had changed completely. Humans were no longer weak. One small human ship had saved hundreds of vessels, outsmarted a massive fleet, and commanded respect without authority. The galaxy itself seemed to pause, witnessing the rise of an unexpected force. Rian's ship hovered in the void, engines humming softly. He had won this phase of the battle, but the war was not over. Zorak's pride and fury would drive him to strike back. The energy trap remained unstable, threatening all life in its path. And yet, the human and his unexpected allies had proven. The alien fleet was partially free, but chaos still ruled the void. Many ships floated, damaged and drifting, while some remained trapped near the dying star. Energy pulses from the unstable trap lashed through space, rocking vessels and throwing crews into panic. Alarms screamed across every deck. The tension was unbearable. Captain Rian hovered in his small human ship, observing the battlefield. He had freed hundreds of ships so far, disrupted Zorak's massive flagship, and gained unexpected allies. But the energy trap was becoming increasingly unstable. Its pulses were unpredictable, stronger than ever. One wrong move now could destroy the entire fleet. Vela's cruiser hovered beside him, engines humming. "Human, the trap's core is accelerating. We have only a small window to save the remaining ships," she warned. Rian nodded. His jaw tightened. Time was slipping away. He had one final chance to stabilize the fleet before the dying star's energy detonated, wiping out every ship in its radius. The stakes had never been higher. He activated his ship's energy core, releasing precise pulses that could manipulate the trap temporarily. The pulses spread through space, reaching smaller trapped ships first. They shuddered, system stabilizing slowly. Lights blinked on. Engines hummed to life. Alien crews let out quiet shouts of relief, some daring to hope. Zorak's flagship moved like a storm, angry and dangerous. Its weapons glowed, aimed at the human and the newly stabilized ships. But Rian had anticipated this. He didn't move in haste. Instead, he calculated every angle, every pulse, and every possible counter. The human mind could predict chaos in ways the massive alien vessels could not. One by one, Rian sent targeted pulses to the remaining trapped ships. Each vessel freed increased hope among the crews and fear among Zorak's loyalists. The balance of power was shifting. The small human ship had become a beacon of courage in the endless void, showing that size and technology were not always the ultimate advantage. But the trap was growing stronger. Pulses from the dying star intensified, shaking free ships violently. Some were caught mid-flight, engines failing again. Rian's eyes narrowed. He had to act faster. There was no room for error. Vela transmitted urgently, "Human, the trap will collapse soon. We cannot stabilize every ship in time." Rian's fingers danced over his controls. He made a split-second decision. He focused on saving the largest remaining ships first, the ones that could carry the rest of the fleet to safety. Smaller ships could follow later. It was risky but necessary. Failure meant total destruction. He sent a massive energy pulse directly into the core of the trap. It rippled through space like a shockwave, stabilizing engines and shields of the largest vessels. They surged forward, free from the deadly grasp of the energy field. Alien crews shouted, some crying, others too stunned to speak. Zorak's eyes burned with fury. His massive flagship lurched violently, systems glitching under Rian's interference. He barked orders, but the remaining loyalist ships hesitated. Fear and confusion had taken hold. The human had not only freed the fleet but had sown doubt and distrust in the hearts of his enemies. Rian's ship darted between vessels, releasing precise pulses that freed more ships. Every move was calculated, every action deliberate. He could feel the pressure of the dying star's energy building, threatening to engulf them all. Yet he did not panic. Humans thrived under pressure. Courage and intellect guided every decision. As he freed the last few trapped ships, Zorak's flagship aimed its massive weapons at him. The massive beams of energy blazed across space, targeting the small human vessel. Rian moved with impossible speed, weaving between fire. The weapons missed, striking empty space, and even some of Zorak's ships in the confusion. Rian's eyes narrowed. One final pulse could end the crisis. He focused all power into his core, sending a wave of energy that stabilized the remaining fleet and disrupted the flagship systems. The massive vessel shuddered, engines failing momentarily, weapons misfiring. Vela's cruiser floated beside him, transmitting urgently, "Human, you've done it. The fleet is free. But the trap, it's collapsing. We must escape now." Rian nodded. He guided the freed ships through a corridor of safe passage, created by his pulses. Engines roared, ships surged forward, and the void seemed to come alive with motion. Alien crews watched in awe as the tiny human ship led them through disaster, turning near-certain death into salvation. Zorak's flagship, still operational but weakened, followed reluctantly. The massive commander's pride burned hotter than the dying star. He had been outmaneuvered, outthought, and humiliated by a single human. Fury and fear warred within him. The energy trap pulsed violently one last time. Ships quivered, alarms screamed, and the void shook with the dying star's unstable power. Rian's ship released one final stabilizing pulse, just enough to allow the entire fleet to escape the trap's collapse. Engines roared as vessels surged forward, free at last. In the aftermath, silence fell over the battlefield. The dying star burned brightly, then collapsed in a distant flash. The energy trap was gone. Every freed ship drifted in space, damaged but alive. Alien crews whispered in disbelief, awe, and gratitude. One human had saved hundreds of lives and outsmarted an entire fleet. Rian hovered, observing the fleet. He had done it. Courage, intelligence, and strategy had won the day. Humans were no longer weak, no longer irrelevant. They had proven themselves in the vast cold of space, against a force that thought them incapable of challenge. Vela's cruiser approached him, engines humming softly. "Human, you are extraordinary. You saved more ships than I thought possible. Your people, they are not to be underestimated." Rian nodded, humble but aware of the impact. It was not just me. Strategy, timing, and understanding the enemy made the difference. Humans have potential, and we will use it when needed. Zorak's flagship lingered at the edge of the fleet. The massive commander's anger had not vanished, but it was tempered by a grudging respect. He had seen what one human could accomplish, and he could not deny the truth. Humans were dangerous, not because of their weapons but because of their mind, courage, and unpredictability. The fleet began to regroup. Ships repaired engines, reactivated shields, and communicated cautiously. Alien crews whispered about the human who had changed their fate. Some still doubted, but many had begun to see a new truth: humans were not to be dismissed. Rian's ship moved silently through the fleet, guiding the freed ships to a safer orbit, away from the unstable remnants of the energy trap. Every pulse, every decision had mattered. Every calculation had saved lives. The battlefield was quiet, yet the tension lingered. The war was not over, but the humans had proven themselves. For the first time, the aliens understood a simple, terrifying truth. One human, clever and fearless, could change the course of an entire fleet. The galaxy would remember this encounter, and humans would no longer be underestimated. Rian's eyes scanned the void. The dying star's remnants glowed faintly behind them. The fleet was free, alive, and moving under new understanding. Yet he knew that challenges lay ahead. Zorak would not surrender easily, and the galaxy was full of forces that. The alien fleet drifted silently through space, the chaos of the energy trap behind them. Broken ships floated alongside the fully functional vessels, survivors of a disaster that had nearly destroyed them all. But the story of survival, courage, and intelligence had already begun to spread among the crews. One name, whispered in disbelief and awe, echoed across the fleet: the human, Captain Rian. Rian's small ship hovered calmly at the edge of the formation, engines humming softly. He watched the freed alien vessels, their crews cautiously returning to normal operations. Every ship carried whispers of astonishment. Many had never witnessed courage like this, calculated, fearless, and intelligent. Humans, once thought weak, had proven otherwise. Vela's cruiser glided alongside Rian's vessel. Human, your people, they are remarkable. You saved more ships than I thought possible. Entire crews owe their lives to you, she said, her voice filled with awe. Rian shook his head, humble but alert. It was not just courage. We rely on logic, observation, and timing. Intelligence is a weapon too. The galaxy often forgets that. Zorak's massive flagship lingered at a distance. The alien commander's pride was wounded, but he was not broken. He studied the human carefully, trying to understand how such a small, seemingly fragile being could manipulate hundreds of ships, outthink a massive fleet, and alter the outcome of near-certain disaster. For the first time, Zorak's respect for humanity took root, begrudging, silent, but undeniable. In the quieter parts of the fleet, alien crews whispered to each other. The human, it is unlike any species we have faced. Clever, brave, unafraid, and yet it did not destroy us. It saved us. Some nodded in agreement. Others shook their heads, unable to reconcile fear and admiration with their previous assumptions. Humans had changed the rules. Rian knew the danger was not over. The galaxy was vast, full of powerful species who still underestimated humanity. But for now the immediate threat had passed. Every freed ship now had a chance to survive. Every alien crew had seen what a human could do. And one lesson was clear: humans were not to be dismissed. Vela transmitted quietly. Captain, there are still ships trapped at the far edge of the system. They may not survive if we do not act quickly. Rian's eyes narrowed. One final act, one last calculation could ensure no ship was left behind. He moved carefully, releasing small, precise energy pulses toward the distant trapped vessels. The pulses stabilized engines, repaired shields, and freed them from the lingering grip of the energy trap. One by one, the ships drifted safely toward the main fleet. Alien crews stared in disbelief. Their entire fleet, once paralyzed and helpless, had been freed by a single human. Some clapped quietly, others simply stared, unable to speak. Across the void of space, Captain Rian had demonstrated something far greater than technology or brute force. Humans were strategic, fearless, and intelligent. Zorak finally approached, his massive flagship casting a shadow over the freed fleet. The aliens braced for an attack, expecting fury and destruction. Instead, the flagship hovered, silent but imposing. Zorak's voice echoed across the communication channels, calm but authoritative. "You, human," he said slowly. "You have shown skill and intelligence beyond what I expected. You have changed the outcome of this disaster. Perhaps, your species is not as weak as we once thought." Rian did not reply immediately. He studied the massive commander. Every gesture, every tone of voice, was carefully observed. Then he spoke simply, clearly. "Humans survive. We adapt. We learn. And we will not be underestimated." The statement echoed across the fleet. Aliens whispered among themselves. Some nodded in understanding. Others frowned, realizing that humanity was not just a minor species in the galaxy, it was a force to be reckoned with. Zorak did not attack. He did not order reprisals. Instead, he studied the human, silently acknowledging that one human had outwitted and outmaneuvered hundreds of ships. The flagship's weapons remained idle, and slowly, a grudging respect spread through the remaining loyalist ships. Rian's eyes scanned the fleet one last time. The crisis had ended. Ships were free, crews were alive, and the immediate threat of the energy trap had vanished. Yet he knew the galaxy was watching. The story of this small human ship, of Captain Rian's courage and strategy, would spread across star systems. And humans would no longer be underestimated. In the void, Rian hovered quietly. Stars stretched endlessly, indifferent, yet a legend had been born. Aliens had seen the impossible. One human could alter the course of hundreds of lives, outthink the largest warships and inspire hope and fear at the same time. The balance of power had shifted, if only slightly, but enough to mark the beginning of a new era. Vela's cruiser drifted closer once more. "Captain, the fleet owes you its life. You are no longer just a human pilot. You are a legend." Rian smiled faintly. He did not boast. Humans did not rely on pride. They relied on action, courage, and intelligence. "A legend, perhaps," he said. "But today we did what was necessary. That is all that matters." The freed alien crews began repairing ships, communicating cautiously, and returning to normal operations. Fear had been replaced by respect, doubt by understanding. Across the fleet, one truth became undeniable: humans were not to be dismissed. They were clever, fearless, and capable of incredible feats. Zorak finally moved his flagship to a safe distance, engines glowing. His anger had cooled, replaced by a silent acknowledgement. Humans were a species to respect, perhaps even fear. One human had challenged his fleet and won. That knowledge would remain in the galaxy forever. Rian's ship moved slowly, leaving the fleet to recover. He did not seek recognition or reward. His mission had been clear: save lives, protect the fleet, and survive. The galaxy had witnessed humanity's potential, and that was enough. As the stars stretched endlessly across the void, Captain Rian reflected on the events. One small human ship, guided by intelligence, courage, and strategy, had changed the fate of hundreds of alien vessels. The galaxy had learned a lesson: humans were not weak. Humans were a force to be reckoned with. And the legend of one human in a small ship against a massive alien fleet would echo across the stars for generations. The galaxy would never forget that humanity could rise, outthink, and survive against impossible odds. Rian activated his engines and began the journey back to human space. The fleet followed cautiously, grateful yet amazed. In the vast silence of space, one truth shone brighter than any star: the human race had claimed its place among the legends of the galaxy. The story was complete, the battle won, and humanity had proven itself. One human, one ship, one mind, that was enough to shift the course of an entire fleet. The stars had witnessed it. The galaxy would remember it. And humanity would never be underestimated again. The darkness of space stretched endlessly, dotted only by distant stars. Near a dying sun, an enormous alien fleet moved in perfect formation. Their ships gleamed with strange metals, shields glowing faintly. They were confident, proud, and completely unprepared for what awaited them. Without warning, the fleet's engines shuddered. A strange energy field erupted around them, invisible yet powerful. Ships shook violently. Shields, the strongest they had, flickered and failed one by one. Panic spread like wildfire among the alien ranks. "What is this?" shouted Commander Zorak, the leader of the fleet, his claws tightening around the console. "Our shields, they are gone. Weapons offline. Communication jammed." Around him, crew members scrambled, their alien faces twisted in fear. The energy trap grew stronger, pulsating like a heartbeat across the fleet. Ships collided, alarms blared, and panic filled every corridor. No one had ever seen anything like this. Then, through the chaos, a tiny dot appeared in the distance. Small, fragile, human. The aliens froze. They had always considered humans weak, primitive, incapable of challenging them. But here it was, a small human ship gliding through the trap as if drawn by some unseen force. "Impossible," Zorak hissed. It can't be a human." The tiny ship moved with precision, weaving between disabled alien vessels. Its hull was sleek, almost fragile compared to the massive alien warships, but there was something in its movement, calm, confident, and deliberate. Inside, Captain Rian sat in his cockpit, eyes scanning the trapped fleet. He was young, not more than 25 standard years old, but his mind was sharp. He had trained for situations that no one could predict. And this was beyond anything even he had imagined. Rian's ship hummed with energy, powered by a human-engineered core that no alien technology could understand. Sensors picked up the failures in the alien fleet. He studied them carefully, noting which ships were most at risk. Every decision mattered. One wrong move and hundreds of ships, and possibly lives, could be destroyed. He understood the stakes. These aliens had come to dominate the galaxy. Their arrogance had blinded them to human potential. Now, by some strange twist, the balance of power had shifted. And it was up to him to act. Rian's fingers danced across the controls. A small pulse shot from his ship, disrupting the energy field around a trapped alien scout. The ship shuddered, then slowly floated free. The alien crew inside stared at their consoles in disbelief. One of them even hesitated, unsure whether to attack the human. "Do not underestimate humans," Rian said softly, more to himself than anyone else. His voice carried confidence, calmness, and a hint of determination. He was not there to fight, at least not yet. He was there to save, to change the course of an unexpected war. The aliens, however, did not see it that way. Some raised their weapons, preparing to fire. Others tried to repair communications, but the energy trap was too strong. Nothing worked. Their pride was turning into panic and panic into chaos. One by one, Rian began freeing more ships. His strategy was simple but effective. He focused on smaller, weaker vessels first, creating corridors of escape. The alien crews could hardly believe what they were seeing. Humans, one tiny human ship, was saving them from total destruction. It defied every expectation, every prejudice. But not all aliens were willing to accept help. Commander Zorak's flagship, the largest of them all, loomed ahead. Its weapons glowed with raw energy, ready to fire at the human. Zorak's face was pale, not from fear but from disbelief. How could one human interfere in a war they thought was already won? Rian's ship edged closer to the flagship. The glow of the energy trap reflected off his hull, casting strange shadows. His sensors picked up the instability of the trap. It was growing stronger, unpredictable, dangerous. He had to act fast. One mistake now could mean the destruction of both the alien fleet and himself. Then, without warning, Rian's ship accelerated. It disappeared into a blinding, glowing energy field that spread like fire across the battlefield. The aliens stared, frozen. Their weapons fired, but they could not reach him. Communication signals scrambled and failed completely. Where did it go?" Zorak whispered, his claws trembling. The alien fleet floated in stunned silence. They had no idea what had just happened. One human, small, clever, and brave, had turned their confidence into confusion, fear, and awe. In that moment, the first true thought crossed many alien minds: humans were not weak. They were unpredictable. They were dangerous. And one human had already begun changing the fate of an entire fleet. As the glow of the energy field faded, the alien ships were left spinning in the void, their shields damaged, systems failing. Somewhere out there, Captain Rian prepared his next move. The war that no one expected had begun. And humans, against all odds, were no longer just spectators. The stars were quiet again, but only for a moment. Across the trapped fleet, alarms continued to blare, whispers of fear spread, and one simple truth emerged: this was no ordinary encounter. This was the beginning of the unexpected war. And somewhere, in the dark silence of space, a small human ship waited, watching, calculating, ready to act. The balance of power about to shift forever.